Chapter 61. 61. Chinda's Dream of Longevity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 61. Chinda's Dream of Longevity. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. Following the narrow passage, Chinda soon arrived at a dark secret chamber. In the depths of this secret chamber, there was a strange half-man and half-woman Buddha statue with a smile on its face. Most Buddha statues gave people kind eyes and a sense of solemnity. However, the Buddha statue in front of him gave off an indescribable obscene and evil feeling. Apart from its strange appearance, the Buddha statue had a very strange pose. The Buddha statue's hands were placed on its abdomen and made a gesture of holding something. However, there was nothing in its hands. Or rather, it used to hold something, but now no longer did. Chinda walked towards the Buddha statue and muttered to himself, "The Buddha statue has fallen into the hands of the Devil Slayer's division. Even the body of the goddess who gave birth to the child was being protected by them. Damn the Devil Slayer's division, damn the Chinyan sect. I just want to cultivate a reincarnated Buddha body to seek longevity. Why are they ruining my good deed?" After his anger subsided, Chinda slowly calmed down. "We can find a goddess again, but we have to find a way to get the Buddha statue back. Otherwise, a mortal body like mine with no spiritual roots would be unable to cultivate a Buddha at all." Thinking of this, Chinda raised his head and looked at the evil Buddha statue before him. "For the love of the Buddha, I am willing to use 10 years of the Great Xia Kingdom's national luck to exchange for 10 blood monk Sarairas." As he spoke, Chinda placed his imperial jade seal in the palm of the Buddha statue and cut his palm, enduring the pain. Following, Chinda's blood fell onto the imperial jade seal. A large amount of lucky golden light appeared around the jade seal. With the appearance of the golden light, the jade seal seemed to come alive. The little golden dragon carved on the top of the jade seal slowly raised its head. However, when it just raised its head, it began to tremble crazily as if it had seen something terrifying. Above its head, the originally motionless Buddha statue was actually looking down at it. The Buddha statue's closed eyes were open, and the corners of its mouth were split open to the ears, revealing a terrifying smile. From its expression, it was as if the Buddha statue had seen some delicious food. A moment later, a miserable roar came from the secret chamber. It sounded like the desperate roar of a dying antelope hunted down by a lion. After 2 hours, Emperor Chinda finally walked out of the secret chamber. A half-opened wooden box appeared in his hand. Inside the wooden box were multiple strange blood monk Sarairas. Blood monk Saraira, effect. After consumption, acquired stage martial artist can forcefully break through to the innate realm and become a blood warrior monk. Side effects. The user's lifespan will be greatly reduced and they will lose their rationality. Chinda, who had just walked out of the secret chamber, suddenly spoke. "Eunuch Zhao, servant is here." As soon as he finished speaking, a figure slowly walked out from the shadows beside him. If this person had not appeared on his own initiative, ordinary people might not have discovered him at all. This was Zhao Yuwei, the chief eunuch in charge of the east chamber of the palace's 2 chambers. He is of the same rank as the great eunuch Li Tianlu, who was previously burned to death by Lu Yuan's green flames. Zhao Yuwei, the head of the east chambers, had also reached the innate stage martial artist's realm. From the evil aura on his body, it seemed that he was not as simple as an ordinary innate stage martial artist. Looking at Zhao Yuwei, Chinda said weakly, "Eunuch Zhao, take these blood monk Sarairas. Everything will be the same as last time. First, we will choose 10 acquired best imperial guards to consume it. Then, we will train them well. Servant will obey." He waited for Zhao Yuwei to leave the palace's royal study with the blood monk Saraira. Chinda sat on the imperial chair in the royal study with a tired expression. His face was a little pale. It seemed that what happened in the secret chamber had cost him a lot. The more Chinda thought about it, the more he felt that the Devil Slayers division had really meddled with other people's business this time. If not for Lu Yuan's interference, he would not have needed to spend so much effort. There was even no need to sacrifice the country's luck in exchange for these 10 blood monk Sariras. Why do you think he sacrificed the country's luck in exchange for these 10 Sariras? It was all to find an opportunity to steal the Buddha statue from the Devil Slayers division. Although he was the emperor of the Great Xia Kingdom, he was only the emperor of this generation of the Great Xia Kingdom. Not to mention that the Qinyan sect was above the Great Xia Kingdom. Just the imperial family disciples who entered the Qinyan sect for celestial cultivation could surpass him, a secular emperor, in terms of status. Once people discovered that Great Xia Kingdom's luck had been greatly reduced, someone would come looking for him sooner or later. Although 10 years of national luck was not little, it was definitely not a lot either. When the time comes, he only needed to do something ridiculous to cover it up and he would be able to perfectly dodge it. Normally speaking, Chinda, who had already reached the peak of mortal power, should not have taken such a risk. However, humans were all like this. The more they got, the less satisfied they were. As he grew older, Chinda gradually felt that his life was coming to an end. However, without a spiritual root, he had no way to increase his lifespan through cultivation. Back then, it was precisely because he did not have a spiritual root that he was lucky enough to obtain the throne of the Great Xia Kingdom. However, if he had a choice, Chinda felt that he would rather not have the throne in exchange for the right to enter the Qinyan sect. After all, being a secular emperor was not as comfortable as being a high and mighty immortal. At least, that was what Chinda thought. Fortunately, all these took a turn for the better 20 years ago. That year, Chinda was in his prime and had a certain amount of ambition. He had thought that he could neither practice celestial cultivation nor seek immortality. It would be better to put all his energy into national governance and gain a good reputation. Therefore, when Chinda was 40 years old, he specially arranged a private visit in disguise. He wanted to take the opportunity to see the real situation in the country and formulate some beneficial policies for the country. But it was during this year that Chinda met the person who changed his life. A devil monk from the Joyful clan. After the devil monk found Chinda, he gave him 2 Buddha statues. One was the Buddha statue that Chinda had placed in the secret chamber. The other one was the Buddha statue that Su Wanner's father had, luckily, obtained. The Buddha statue that Su Wanner's father, Su Jiaping, had obtained was actually given to him by Chinda secretly. The reason was very simple, and that was according to what the devil monk of Joyful sect said. If Chinda wanted to undergo cultivation, he had to get rid of his current physical body that lacked the spiritual root. And if he wanted to achieve this, he could only choose to reincarnate and cultivate again. The method of reincarnating and cultivating was not difficult. As long as Chinda could find a woman who was born in a gloomy year, gloomy month, and gloomy day, and make her pregnant with his own child after she was 20 years old. Next, as long as he fused the Buddha statue into the fetus, he could complete the rebirth. As for why Chinda did not directly kidnap Su Wanner and keep her captive was simple. This was because the reincarnation he wanted was not a simple reincarnation and cultivation. Instead, he wanted to reincarnate as a prince of the Great Xia Kingdom. This was the only way he could use his identity as the new prince to enter the Qinyan sect legitimately. And if he wanted to be reborn as a prince, then Su Wanner's identity had to be at least a princess. This was also the reason why Chinda wanted to support Su Jiaping and help him break away from his lowly peddler status as soon as possible. As for the matter of him entering into the Qinyan sect after reincarnation, it was at the request of the devil monk when he gave him the Buddha statue. Of course, Chinda knew what the other party's purpose was for asking him to do this. However, in the face of the temptation of longevity, Chinda ultimately agreed to the deal. He also began to secretly search for a suitable Buddha statue to descend into the body of a goddess. After he found Su Wanner, the goddess, Chinda began to arrange everything. However, there was one thing that Chinda did not expect. He had forgotten about the jealousy of women when he was thinking about reincarnation. This caused Su Wanner, who was about to enter the palace, to suddenly have an unexpected change. In the end, she was brought to the Devil Slayers division along with the Buddha statue. The plan that was originally solid plan fell at this last step. It was as if something was stopping him. However, Chinda would not give up just like that. For a person who was about to die, for the sake of longevity, he could do anything. Director Green Flame, I don't believe that you can stay in the Devil Slayers division forever. As long as you leave, I can get back everything I lost. In the backyard of the Devil Slayers division's headquarters. Director Sir, are you sure you want to build your residence in this headquarters? You have to know that with your status, you can buy a good house in the best location in the imperial capital. Facing Shang Yun's doubts, Lu Yuan said very seriously, Practitioner Shang, I have to criticize you for what you've said. What do cultivators like us cultivate? Naturally, it is to cultivate longevity and freedom. But it's never easy to achieve these two things. The chaos of the mortal world is only a fleeting cloud in the end. I've set up my residence here to set an example and teach you a principle. That is, cultivators like us should focus our energy on cultivation and not on other messy things. I have made up my mind. You don't need to say anything else. Get someone to clean this place up. During this period when I'm the director, I'm determined not to leave the Devil Slayers division and set an example for you. I want you to understand what it means to have a firm heart of Tao. Shang Yun didn't believe a single word of this pompous statement. If it wasn't for the fact that he saw the director hugging women in the drunken cloud brothel and fighting the twin courtesans alone in the middle of the night. Shang Yun thought to himself, I am afraid that one would have believed your nonsense. I think it's fake that the director, you, are working hard to cultivate. The real motive is that you're hiding a mistress in your golden house. After all, Sir, had just brought back a peerless beauty. However, Shang Yun naturally would not have said these words out loud. He didn't want the director's green flames to land on him. Thus, Shang Yun cooperated and showed a look of admiration. Director Sir is wise. It's our fortune to have a director like you. Although Shang Yun said that, he started to underestimate him in his heart. He had to remind Xiaoru not to get too close to the new director. Although their new director had a high cultivation level and a good personality. But it was this weakness. It seemed quite obvious. He had only been in the imperial capital for a day and a night, and not only did he have sex in drunken cloud brothel every night, but he even made up a pretense on the streets to kidnap a peerless beauty. If Xiaoru and the director were to get close, there might be something more on his head. Fire prevention, theft prevention, Lu Yuan prevention. This was Shang Yun's most sincere thought at the moment. Chapter 62. 62, Shadow Clone and Proficiency Match Better. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 62. Shadow Clone and Proficiency Match Better. Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio under Shang Yun and the others' careful arrangements. In the depths of the Devil Slayers division, an extremely dangerous place in the eyes of outsiders, was quickly tidied up into a quaint little courtyard. On the whole, there was nothing special about this courtyard. It was a standard courtyard house. However, even though it was small, it was complete with everything needed. Not only were there mountains and rivers in the courtyard, but there were also flowers and plants. It was very suitable for living. Lu Yuan did not know what others thought, but he was very satisfied with this new home. In any case, his next cultivation would not cause much of a commotion, so he could just carry it out in this small courtyard. Lu Yuan did not care at all if the courtyard was big or if the decorations were gorgeous. The only thing he cared about was the quality of soundproofing and the size of the bed. Not to misunderstand. If the soundproofing was good, it could ensure that he would not be affected by outsiders when he cultivated. And if the bed was big, it would be more comfortable when he cultivated. Shang Yun understood Lu Yuan's two requests very thoroughly. Not only did he personally set up a soundproofing array and an illusion array around the courtyard, but he also specially asked someone to send a big bed in. It ensured that Lu Yuan would have an absolutely quiet and comfortable environment when he cultivate. It ensured that the people outside could neither hear the sound nor see the situation inside. After these trivial matters were settled, Lu Yuan dispersed everyone and rested in the room. Lu Yuan, who was sitting cross-legged on the big bed, began to sort out his current situation. Firstly, in terms of his special divine ability, Lu Yuan currently had 3 special divine powers. The green flame technique, the gilded sand, and the formless squall. Whether it was in terms of attack, defense, or escape, they were all very good. Secondly, he had the foundation establishment through the way of the heaven's spiritual root. He had 3 way of the heaven's spiritual root, the metal spiritual root, the water spiritual root, and the wind spiritual root. It was not too bad. He didn't lack divine ability currently, and the number of the way of heaven's spiritual root was still acceptable. Then, the main thing he had to do next was to try to condense more foundation establishment through the way of the heaven's spiritual roots as soon as possible during the process of elevating his cultivation. If everything went smoothly, Lu Yuan felt that he could make it through the next 10 years. He would be able to cultivate 2 more foundation establishment through the way of the heaven's spiritual roots. And increase his foundation establishment through the way of the heaven's spiritual roots to a total of 5. At that time, his survival ability would undoubtedly be greatly improved. As for what the next 2 way of the heaven's spiritual roots to cultivate were, Lu Yuan also decided after some thought. They were the fire spiritual root and the wood spiritual root. Why he chose to cultivate these 2 spiritual roots was related to the cultivation technique he had specially exchanged for before he left the mountain, the fire cicada 9 transformations. Foundation Establishment Chapter. Fire Cicada 9 Transformations. Foundation Establishment Chapter, Cultivation Requirements. Possess fire and wood dual spiritual roots, emptiness realm divine soul, effect. After cultivating this cultivation technique, the user can condense a fire cicada clone at each tier. The clone has 1/10 of the main body's cultivation and all the divine abilities. With every additional transformation, the clone's strength will increase by 1 level. Actually, when Lu Yuan chose this cultivation technique, he did not fancy the combat strength of the clone. When he saw this cultivation method, he immediately thought of the special use of clones. And this use. It was cultivation. That's right, clones could also cultivate. Different from the ordinary clone technique, the clone of the fire cicada 9 transformations was essentially an avatar. The principle was similar to the natural golden cicada shedding its shell. The fire cicada clone was the shell that Lu Yuan had shed. This shell was not as powerful as the main body. However, the rest, regardless of the divine ability he had mastered or the structure of his body, they were exactly the same as Lu Yuan's main body. Once Lu Yuan recalled his clone, he would be able to obtain all of the other party's memories, including a certain degree of fatigue. What was this? This was the immortal hero version of the shadow clone technique. And when the shadow clone technique was combined with skill proficiency, gosh, just thinking about this dream-like linkage made Lu Yuan's water flow turbulent. Although he hadn't even started to learn the cultivation technique. However, Lu Yuan had already arranged the cultivation time for his clone. As a self-disciplined clone, of course, he had to spend all his time on cultivation. What is sleep? Did the clone need to sleep? Of course not. With the clone's age and tier, how could he fall asleep? He must learn hard, 24 hours a day. Although he really wanted to cultivate the fire cicada 9 transformations immediately. However, similar to the dual attribute cultivation technique, the 9-guard tortoiseshell technique. The difficulty of cultivating the fire cicada 9 transformations was not low at all. The requirement for a spiritual root was still acceptable. The most difficult part of cultivating this cultivation technique was that the cultivator needed to possess an emptiness realm divine soul. The so-called divine soul was actually the soul of a cultivator. As for the cultivation of the soul, it was something that only core formation stage cultivators would begin to cultivate. When they were in the early stages of cultivation, their souls were not much different from ordinary people's. They were also very fragile. Not only was it difficult to cultivate, but if anything went wrong, the consequences would be devastating. After all, the soul was a person's core. An injury to the soul was more terrifying than an injury to the physical body. It could not be easily healed. Thus, even core formation stage cultivators were extremely careful when cultivating their divine souls. It was precisely because of the uniqueness of the divine soul that most cultivators would seriously increase their cultivation in the early stages. Moreover, in this process, it would subtly nurture and strengthen their divine soul. They would not easily take the initiative to cultivate his divine soul. When their cultivation reached the core formation stage, their divine soul would be nurtured to a certain extent. Only then would they begin to attempt the cultivation of the soul. And when the divine soul was cultivated to a certain extent, it could combine with the golden core and finally form a special thing, the nascent soul. This was the cultivation process of a cultivator from the core formation stage to the nascent soul stage. That was why some people said that only cultivators who had reached the core formation stage would attempt to cultivate the divine soul. It was precisely because of the uniqueness of the divine soul. As a result, the level of the divine soul of most cultivators was far lower than their own cultivation. The classification of the divine soul was different from cultivation. Before ascending, a cultivator's divine soul only had 4 levels. They were namely the emptiness realm, the real realm, the apotheosis, and the wandering God. The real realm corresponded to the nascent soul stage, apotheosis corresponded to the apotheosis stage, and the wandering God realm corresponded to the ascending stage. Before most cultivators reached the core formation stage, their divine souls could not even reach the emptiness realm. As for the sign of the emptiness stage divine soul, it was the ability to condense one's divine soul into an illusory outline. It was impossible to think about achieving this step without a certain amount of soul power as the foundation. Lu Yuan's current divine soul strength had yet to reach this realm. As for the reason why the fire cicada 9 transformations could have the effect of an extrajudicial incarnation, its principle was that it could allow the cultivator to split out a portion of his divine soul and condense it into a clone. Therefore, the fire cicada 9 transformations seem to cultivate fire and wood dual spiritual roots. But in reality, it cultivates in 3 aspects: the fire, wood, and divine soul. Therefore, the greatest difficulty in cultivating the fire cicada 9 transformations was not the fire and wood spiritual roots. It was the requirement of the emptiness realm divine soul. The requirement to reach the emptiness realm divine soul in the foundation establishment stage was undoubtedly extremely harsh. Although this cultivation was equally difficult for Lu Yuan, it was not impossible. This was because he had mastered a special skill that could strengthen his divine soul, the divine soul pill refinement technique. As for how to strengthen his divine soul, Lu Yuan had a rough idea after he came to the Devil Slayers division. Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. He could not just refine his own soul. After a simple rest, Lu Yuan left the courtyard and walked towards the dungeon of the Devil Slayers division. The people imprisoned in this dungeon were all kinds of fiendish demons and monsters that had been captured from all over the Great Xia Kingdom. His purpose for coming here was very simple, and that was to take the guys inside. Soul Refining. Chapter 63. 63, Refining the Divine Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 63. Refining the Divine Soul. Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo-I.bo Studio Bo. The location of the Devil Slayers Division's dungeon was the deepest part of the Devil Slayers Division's headquarters. If one wanted to divide the various areas of the Devil Slayers Division headquarters into a certain degree of importance, one would be able to do so. The underground prison was undoubtedly the most important place here. After all, if something happened here and the demons and monsters inside could escape. Before the Qingyun sect cultivators arrived, the entire Great Xia imperial capital might have been destroyed. Just as Lu Yuan arrived at the entrance of the underground prison, the two practitioners who were guarding the dungeon at the door hurriedly stood up. "Greetings, Director Green Flame." Lu Yuan waved his hand. "It's okay. Between the two of you, choose one to lead the way for me. I'm very interested in this dungeon." Upon hearing this, the elderly practitioner hurriedly hinted at the young practitioner beside him with a look. The young practitioner immediately came back to his senses after receiving such a hint. Leading the way for the new director was obviously a good opportunity to show off. If he performed well later, perhaps he would be able to leave this dark dungeon. After all, it was really boring to stay here all day. Thinking of this, the young practitioner hurriedly stepped forward. "Director, please follow me. I'll bring you in." Lu Yuan nodded, then subconsciously asked, "What's your name?" The young practitioner was delighted. Then, he replied excitedly, "Report Director, my name is Shiranfu, a bronze-rank practitioner." "Shiranfu, right. I'll remember it, lead the way." This subordinate will obey. Under Shiranfu's lead, Lu Yuan quickly entered the dungeon. Along the way, Shiranfu also began to tell Lu Yuan about the people imprisoned in this dungeon. These people could be roughly divided into martial artists, cultivators, demons, and some non-human, non-demon strange and evil spirits. According to the danger level of the prisoners, the prison cells were divided into 3 grades: A, B, and C. Amongst them, the A-grade prison cell usually imprisoned innate stage material artists, foundation establishment stage cultivators or powerful great demons. The B-grade prison cell imprisoned chi cultivation stage, small demons, acquired stage martial artists, and so on. The people locked up in the C-grade prison cell were those who had some small abilities or those prisoners who did not deserve death. And among all the prison cells, the C-grade prison cell was the only one that could allow people to leave alive. The remaining ones were locked up in A and B* prison cells. They were either imprisoned until death or executed by the Devil Slayers Division. In any case, they could not leave the dungeons alive. After understanding this, Lu Yuan turned to Shiranfu and asked, "Take me to the A-grade prison cell." "Yes, sir." Not long after, Lu Yuan passed through levels of guards and arrived at the deepest part of the dungeon. They were now almost 30 meters deep underground. Not only was the light dim, but the air was also extremely humid. There was also an unpleasant rancid smell. Roar. Just as Lu Yuan entered the A-grade prison cell area, a furious roar filled with vigor instantly came. Lu Yuan frowned in the face of this provocative roar. Impudent. As soon as he finished speaking, a ball of dazzling green flames emitted from Lu Yuan's body. Immediately after, a majestic spiritual pressure pressed down in the direction of the roar. Woo! After sensing Lu Yuan's spiritual pressure, the guy who wanted to show Lu Yuan his might earlier immediately cowered. Lu Yuan had spiritual pressure from 3 way of the heaven's spiritual roots. It was not something that ordinary people could withstand. Not to mention these evil and karmic fellows. The way of heaven's energy on Lu Yuan's body was an existence that was extremely restraining on them. Therefore, when Lu Yuan released the spiritual pressure in his body without holding back, the noisy underground prison instantly became quiet. It was obvious that they had realized that the person who had come was not to be trifled with. Shiranfu, who was beside him, saw everything. he secretly sighed. As expected of the director. His methods were not ordinary. After suppressing these unruly fellows, Lu Yuan also began to secretly observe the situation of these guys. There were a total of 30 cells in the area where Grade A prisoners were held. Each cell was locked up with an individual extremely vicious fellow. Among these guys, there were only 3 that Lu Yuan was somewhat wary of. Among the 3, one was a demon, one was an evil cultivator, and the last one was something that Lu Yuan could not explain. According to Lu Yuan's judgment, these 3 guys' cultivation should have peaked at foundation establishment stage during their prime. However, since these 3 guys were all locked up, they were equivalent to tigers that had lost their claws and teeth. It was no threat to Lu Yuan at all. Therefore, after simply intimidating these guys, Lu Yuan looked at Shi Anfu and asked, "How did our division deal with these guys in the past?" "Sir, the Devil Slayers division usually has 3 ways to deal with A-grade prisoners. The first way was to choose a specific executioner to execute these guys. The second way, after failing multiple executions, they will be imprisoned here until they are killed. The third way is to hand them over to the Qingyun Celestial Sect." Lu Yuan's interest was piqued when he heard the last sentence. "The Qingyun sect will specially send people here to take over the prisoners. Yes, you may not know, there are some criminals imprisoned here are for transfers to the Celestial Sect. Then bring me to someone who doesn't need to be handed over to the Celestial Sect." Upon hearing this, Shi Anfu almost understood what Lu Yuan wanted to do. It was obvious that the new director wanted to kill a Grade A prisoner himself. Similar situations had happened before. After all, those who could cultivate to the foundation establishment stage generally had some family background. They were imprisoned here mainly to squeeze out the last bit of their value. Once they were no longer useful, they were basically declared dead. As a result, many evil cultivators and great demons who were locked up here would rather die than reveal their practitioner pathway or the location of their treasures. They knew very well that only by keeping these secrets would they be able to live longer. However, faced with the various tortures by the Devil Slayers division, not many people could keep their secrets. Under Shi Anfu's lead, Lu Yuan quickly arrived at a Grade A prison cell. In the dark and damp cell, an old man with a haggard face was leaning against the wall and sitting motionless on the ground. The old man's body was very thin. His limbs and chest were penetrated by specific chains, blocking the possibility of him circulating his spiritual energy. It was like a dead person. "Sir, this is the Grade A criminal, Black Mountain practitioner. His crime was mainly to use living people to cultivate evil techniques. When he was arrested, he had already killed a total of 1,084 people. Amongst his victims were 3 silver-rank practitioners of the Devil Slayers division. In the end, the gold-rank great practitioner, Lion.Ape, personally subdued this devilish way and locked it up in the Devil Slayers division. During his imprisonment, a total of 12 executioners died in his hands, so he was temporarily escorted to the A grade cell." Lu Yuan nodded. "I understand. You can leave first. Without my orders, you don't need to come in. This subordinate will obey." After Shi Anfu left, Lu Yuan walked up to the Black Mountain practitioner alone. The Black Mountain practitioner, who was originally sitting quietly on the ground, suddenly exploded when Lu Yuan approached within a certain distance. A large amount of blood flowed out from the wound that had been pierced by the chain. Under the guidance of a certain force, it formed a blood-colored evil spirit and pounced towards Lu Yuan. However, just as the blood-colored evil spirit was about to pounce on Lu Yuan, a green spiritual energy turtle's hell shield instantly appeared on Lu Yuan's face. Thump. As expected, after the blood-colored evil spirit collided with the spiritual energy turtle's hell shield, it did not pose any threat to the shield. Sensing the terrifying defensive power of the shield, the blood-colored evil spirit looked at Lu Yuan with fear. Then, he returned to the body of the Black Mountain practitioner. When the blood-colored evil spirit completely disappeared, the Black Mountain practitioner, who had kept his head lowered, finally woke up. He looked at Lu Yuan and said with fear in his eyes, "Spare me. Sir, spare me." Before he could finish speaking, a flying sword instantly pierced through his mouth. Lu Yuan looked at the Black Mountain practitioner, who had a flying sword in his mouth and a look of despair in his eyes. Lu Yuan said calmly, "You being dead is more useful to me than being alive." As soon as he finished speaking, an enormous green flame instantly ignited on the flying sword. The Black Mountain practitioner screamed as his body was gradually burned into ashes. Following the death of the Black Mountain practitioner, an illusory substance that only Lu Yuan could see appeared. It slowly floated out of the body of the Black Mountain practitioner. In response, Lu Yuan directly waved his hand. In the next second, these grayish-white illusory substances began to gather in his hand. This grayish-white illusory substance was the soul of the Black Mountain practitioner that was about to dissipate. In this soul that was gathered by Lu Yuan, not only did it contain the memories of the Black Mountain practitioner's entire life, but it also contained the soul power that he had cultivated for 100 years. And these things were the purpose of Lu Yuan's visit. Chapter 64. 64. The Essence of the Evil. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 64. The Essence of the Evil. Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio. In the underground prison of the Devil Slayers Division. After extracting the divine soul essence of the Black Mountain practitioner with his divine soul pill refinement technique, Lu Yuan felt that this skill had already exceeded the scope of the pill refinement technique. How could such a fierce skill be used for pill refinement? Ding! Because you have seriously performed a type of divine soul pill refinement technique proficiency plus 100, level 1. Divine soul pill refinement technique. 100/10,000, he looked at the system notification. His proficiency in the divine soul pill refinement technique had begun to rise. Lu Yuan finally understood the nature of the divine soul pill refinement technique. Previously, Lu Yuan had already discovered that ordinary pill refinement activities were already unable to increase the proficiency of his divine soul pill refinement technique. Regarding this, Lu Yuan judged that in ordinary pill refinement, there was no need to use the step of soul refinement. Therefore, he was unable to increase the proficiency of his divine soul pill refinement technique. Unless he waited until he refined a core formation stage medicinal pill, would the proficiency of his divine soul pill refinement technique be increased during the pill refinement process. This was because refining core formation stage pills required soul refinement. After all, medicinal herbs that could reach the core formation stage already possessed a certain level of spirituality star. This so-called spirituality was a type of divine soul. However, before today, these were all Lu Yuan's guesses. It was also after today that it was confirmed. The conclusion was that the key to the divine soul pill refinement technique was not in pill refinement but in the divine soul. It was also because of the ability to refine the divine soul that this skill had a magical effect that was different from the previous metaphysical pill refinement technique. If Lu Yuan still wanted to continue to improve his proficiency in divine soul pill refinement technique in the future, then he needed to develop more in the direction of divine soul refinement. The Devil Slayers division was undoubtedly able to provide him with such an environment. Just the grade A dungeon area in front of him alone had a total of 30 high-quality refining materials. As for whether he would feel guilty using these guys to refine the divine soul, Lu Yuan had thought this through very thoroughly. First of all, there were basically no innocent people who could be locked up here. Every single one of them was an existence whose hands were stained with blood. Their deaths were not worth regretting. Lu Yuan used them to refine his divine souls. In essence, it was not much different from executing these guys. Secondly, most of the people locked up here were actually inhuman existences. There were only 2 or 3 people among the 30 grade A prisoners who were evil cultivators like the Black Mountain practitioner, who used living people to practice their cultivation techniques. Lu Yuan could roughly guess the reason for this. After all, compared to the demons and evildoers, these evil cultivators were undoubtedly more valuable to the righteous cultivators. Whether it was the information they knew about the devilish way or the divine ability cultivation techniques they might know, they were all things that cultivators could use. Therefore, when those evil cultivators in foundation establishment stage and above levels were captured, would basically be interrogated by the captors before they could be sent to the Devil Slayers division. The evil cultivators were sent here alive after interrogation. It was either they were too stubborn, or they really did not have any beneficial information. As for the demons and evildoers that were sent over, they were not as valuable as the evil cultivators. Only some demons could be reused, but the evildoers were really useless. Not only was it dangerous, but it also took up space, time and effort. The reason why he said this was because the so called evildoers was actually neither a demon nor a cultivator, much less a human. Although many of them looked no different from humans. However, it was this group of fellows who were so fierce that they could kill immortals. They were weaker than a chicken bred for 2.5 years in the mortal world. The only way to determine whether one was an evildoer was to see if he could be killed by the other. The so-called evildoers were essentially a group of creatures of law. It was a product born under certain conditions. The most common type of evildoer was born from the folk legends of the mortal world. You might not even be able to say for sure that there were evildoers before there were these folk legends. Or it was the folk legends that came first before the evil spirits. As for the evildoers, other than having the unique characteristic of being impossible to completely killed, another characteristic of them was that they would act according to specific conditions. Based on this characteristic, the cultivators had specially formulated ways to deal with the evildoers. As long as he understood the specific conditions of an evildoer, he would not have to worry about being hurt by the evildoer. This unique characteristic was recorded in many celestial cultivation sections. They preferred to call these evildoers the heavens incarnate. As for what the ways of the heavens represented in the Xianxia world, in fact, they were rules. The so-called evildoer was a rule that had already been materialized. For sex, the term evildoer was used to describe the heavens incarnate star. Lu Yuan felt that the description was quite appropriate. Because from his perspective, he felt that these evildoers were actually immortal hero version robots with a unique set of bottom-level thinking logic star. Something that could be materialized and acted according to specific conditions. Wasn't that just a robot? After knowing this, Lu Yuan no longer had much fear of the evildoers imprisoned in the underground prison. As long as he did not trigger the other party's conditions, these guys were safer than anyone else. As for the rules of the movement of the evildoers in the underground prison, every single one of them was clearly recorded in the files of the Devil Slayers division. Before Lu Yuan came to the dungeon, he had specially learned about it. It was a steady one. Back to the main topic, after Lu Yuan dealt with the Black Mountain practitioner, he began to focus on the divine soul essence in his hand. The cultivation of the divine soul was dangerous to begin with. Rashly absorbing others' divine soul was an extremely risky matter. After all, once one absorbed too much of another person's divine soul, it was very likely that one's rationality would be affected. It could cause one to be in a trance, or at worst, cause one's self-awareness to collapse. In the end, there might even be twisted and absurd thoughts of who I am, where I am, and whether I am me. Thus, before Lu Yuan absorbed the soul essence of the Black Mountain practitioner, he needed to process his divine soul. However, it was not convenient to carry out this process here. Therefore, after putting the divine soul of the Black Mountain practitioner into a special container, Lu Yuan left the underground prison. As for the death of the Black Mountain practitioner, Lu Yuan was now the director of the Devil Slayers division. Even if an ordinary person could kill the Black Mountain practitioner, not only would the Devil Slayers division not pursue the matter, but they would also even reward the other party. After all, these demons and evil cultivators were harder to kill than the last. If he had to worry about them causing trouble if he kept them locked up, he might as well kill them. After Lu Yuan killed the Black Mountain practitioner, he unexpectedly discovered something interesting. That is, there seemed to be a special array in this underground prison. When the Black Mountain practitioner died, not only was the evil spirit in his body absorbed and purified by the dungeon, even his luck was fused into the Great Xia Kingdom's dragon vein. This was not Lu Yuan's wild guess, but because he was sensitive enough to luck. This also allowed Lu Yuan to discover one of the important reasons why the Qinyan sect had established the Devil Slayers division. Fallen flowers were not heartless things, turning into spring mud to protect the flowers. The demons and evil cultivators who harmed the people of Great Xia would become nourishment for the Great Xia Kingdom after their deaths. It was indeed a perfect closed loop. Although he was a little envious of this portion of luck, as a steady person, Lu Yuan was very clear about what might happen if he stole this portion of luck. Once someone discovered that the Great Xia Kingdom's luck had decreased, and later discovered that the source was the Demon Slayers division. In the end, if they followed the clues and found him, it was very likely that the matter of him being able to absorb the luck would be exposed. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan secretly sighed in his heart. Sigh, if only one could find someone to take the blame for me. One take the luck and others take the blame. What a perfect plan. Unfortunately, such a person was not easy to find. Chapter 65. 65, Honorable Gentlemen, Lu Yuan, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 65. Honorable Gentlemen, Lu Yuan Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. After leaving the underground prison, Lu Yuan returned to his courtyard. Before he entered, he specially reminded the guard outside. Unless there was something particularly important, he should never come in and disturb him. After saying these words, Lu Yuan entered the small courtyard and began his secluded cultivation. He made sure that there was no third party in his courtyard. Lu Yuan took out the divine soul essence he had obtained from the underground prison. Quickly, Lu Yuan took out his pill furnace. Because before he absorbed the divine soul essence, he needed to purify this thing. After all, there were still many impurities in this divine soul essence. If he were to absorb it directly, it would easily affect his divine soul. Therefore, he needed to purify it first. The purification method was not complicated. It was not much different from the purification of the medicinal ingredients that he had previously done for pill refinement. After everything was ready, Lu Yuan threw the divine soul essence in his hand into the pill furnace. Soon, a green flame rose in the pill furnace. The divine soul essence of the foundation establishment stage began to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye. While Lu Yuan purified the impurities in the divine soul, he also looked through the memories of the Black Mountain practitioner. During the process, Lu Yuan looked at the memories as if he was watching a slideshow. The nature of divine soul purification was to remove some unimportant memories. Unimportant were just memories that Lu Yuan did not think it was important at this moment. It was possible that some of the useful memories had been disposed of as trash by Lu Yuan. However, to ensure safety when absorbing the divine soul, Lu Yuan still felt that it was best for the divine soul not to carry too much strong self-concept in the memories. As he read more memories, Lu Yuan had more or less figured out the true origin of the Black Mountain practitioner. This old man was from the Shuiyang sect of the three devilish sections. The reason why he fled to the Great Xia Kingdom was that he had secretly killed his fellow sect members while he was fighting for something within the sect. If it was just ordinary killings of fellow sect members, given the cultivation of the Black Mountain practitioner and the cruel disciple training system of the Shuiyang sect, there was no need for him to escape to the Great Xia Kingdom. However, the person he killed had to be the grandson of a core formation stage elder of the Shuiyang sect. After the other party found out about this situation, they naturally would not let him off easily. Therefore, after the Black Mountain practitioner got what he wanted, he decisively ran away. And something that could make Shuiyang practitioner kill his fellow sect member to get it naturally was no ordinary item. The thing they were fighting over was the corpse of a core formation stage demon king. The Black Mountain practitioner risked being hunted by his fellow sect members and snatched the corpse of a core formation realm demon king. The reason was closely related to the unique cultivation technique of the Shuiyang sect, the Blood Soul spell. The Blood Soul spell was a special technique exclusive to the Shuiyang sect. It was a special technique that allowed cultivators to increase their cultivation in divine soul by absorbing the blood of their enemies. This cultivation technique was also rare. It was a divine soul cultivation technique that could be cultivated before core formation stage. The corpse of a core formation stage demon king was enough to allow the Black Mountain practitioner, who was still in the chi cultivation stage, to break through to the foundation establishment stage. After that, the Black Mountain practitioner relied on the remaining blood in the corpse to cultivate to the 5th level of the foundation establishment stage. Naturally, there was a reason why Shuiyang sect was called a devilish sect. Although the Blood Soul spell had a low cultivation threshold, the cultivation effect was obvious and it could also cultivate the divine soul. However, after cultivating this cultivation technique, there was a very big flaw. That was, once the cultivator started to cultivate the Blood Soul spell, they would have an extreme desire for blood and would never be able to quit. It was a genuinely evil cultivation technique. However, even though this cultivation technique was evil, the speed of cultivation was really fast. Therefore, Shuiyang sect had the most foundation establishment stage disciples among all the righteous and devil sections. After he escaped to the Great Xia Kingdom, the fatal flaw of this cultivation technique made Black Mountain practitioner unable to suppress his thirst for blood at all. Despite knowing that it was dangerous, he still had to go out every month to hunt living people to satisfy his bloodlust. As time went by, the Devil Slayers division naturally targeted him. In the end, he was arrested and imprisoned in the Devil Slayers division. It could only be said that the fate of people like them was often destined from the beginning. The Black Mountain practitioner, who had cultivated this evil cultivation technique, was basically destined to die a horrible death. After Lu Yuan finished reading all of the memories of a Shuiyang practitioner, he found 2 useful points. 1. The exclusive cultivation technique of the Shuiyang sect, the Blood Soul spell. 2. A special divine ability that could be used with the Blood Soul spell, Blood Soul technique. Lu Yuan temporarily did not have the desire to cultivate the Blood Soul spell. However, relying on the skill system, Lu Yuan felt that he would know more cultivation techniques in the future. Maybe, he might be able to create an improved version of the Blood Soul spell without the side effects of bloodthirst. Although he could not use the Blood Soul spell, for the time being, the Blood Soul technique was different. The principle of the so-called Blood Soul technique was to allow a cultivator to fuse a portion of their soul power into their blood. From there, he reached the level of using the soul to control blood. The method was extremely strange. This divine ability was said to be used in conjunction with the Blood Soul spell. This was because the Blood Soul spell was one of the very few cultivation techniques that could allow cultivators to cultivate their divine soul before the core formation stage. In other words, as long as a cultivator had a powerful enough divine soul, even if he had never cultivated the Blood Soul spell, he could still cultivate the divine ability, the Blood Soul technique. Therefore, cultivating the Blood Soul spell was not a precondition for cultivating the divine ability, the Blood Soul technique. Instead, one needed to have a certain power level of divine soul. Apart from cultivation techniques and divine ability, Lu Yuan also learned about the specific situation of the 3 devilish sects from the memories of the Black Mountain practitioner. The 3 devilish sects were namely the Shuiyang sect, Shixian sect and Huanxi sect. The characteristics of the Shuang sect and the Shixian sect could be known just from the names of the sections. The only thing that surprised Lu Yuan was the Huanqi sect. He originally thought that the Huanqi sect should be similar to the Hehuan sect in the celestial cultivation world of his previous life. In her sect, there were fairy sisters dressed in skimpy clothes. However, the actual situation of the Huanqi sect was completely different from what Lu Yuan had imagined. This was because Huanqi sect was actually a Tantra sect. The so-called Huanqi sect was originally definitely not a place where young ladies gathered. Instead, it was a place where a group of baldies gathered to play. Lu Yuan felt a chill run down his spine just thinking about the scene of a group of muscular baldies gathered together. It also caused him to instantly lose interest in the Huanqi sect. No, in a place like the Huanqi sect, probably only the pillars are straight, the others are all not. If a straight man like Lu Yuan went over, he might be turned gay very quickly. It was better for him to hide far away in such a place. Even if I, Lu Yuan, die, one don't want to be captured by the Huanqi sect. Absolutely not. In general, the so-called three devilish sects, one was a blood lover, one was a corpse lover, and the last one was a bald lover. Compared to the Qinyan sect, which was full of beauties, there was nothing to compare at all. The devilish path was indeed devilish. No wonder it was rejected by the righteous. After understanding this, Lu Yuan almost dispelled the idea of joining if he could not win the fight. Why should he join these three sections? Just to play fencing with those devil cultivators. After complaining, Lu Yuan put all his energy into refining the divine soul essence. Half a day later, the fist-size divine soul essence had shrunk to only 1/10 of its original size. Although the size was much smaller, the remaining divine soul power was all incomparably pure essence. It was an essence that Lu Yuan could absorb without worry. As the last bit of impurity was removed by Lu Yuan, a sparkling white soul pill quickly appeared in the pill furnace. Lu Yuan decisively took out the soul pill. After confirming that there was no problem, he swallowed it in one gulp. Hiss. After swallowing the soul pill, Lu Yuan immediately felt a cool sensation that rushed straight to the top of his head. It felt like drinking a big bottle of Fat Otaku Happy Drink on a 40-degree summer day. It was so refreshing that it was hard to breathe. Apart from the power of the soul, this soul pill also contained the memory fragments Lu Yuan kept. These memory fragments were related to the cultivation methods of the blood-soul spell and the blood-soul technique. However, even though he already knew the cultivation method of the blood-soul technique, Lu Yuan was still in no hurry to cultivate it. At this moment, he began to observe the situation of his divine soul. Perhaps it was because of his time travel, Lu Yuan's divine soul strength was already far stronger than that of an ordinary person. Coupled with the replenishment of this soul pill, this caused Lu Yuan's current divine soul strength to become even stronger. Lu Yuan roughly estimated that he only needed 9 more soul pills like this. He would almost be able to make his divine soul reach the emptiness realm stage. Reaching the emptiness realm divine soul meant that he could start cultivating the Fire Cicada 9 Transformations cultivation technique. Being able to cultivate this cultivation technique meant that he could start preparing for the fire and would dual spiritual roots for the stage of the foundation establishment through the way of the heavens. Thinking of the foundation establishment through the way of the heavens, Lu Yuan began to think about how he could increase the success rate of these 2 spiritual roots foundation establishment through the ways of the heavens. There were differences between them and the previous 3 spiritual roots foundation establishment through the ways of the heavens. This time, Lu Yuan did not find any suitable natural treasures to help him advance to the foundation establishment through the ways of the heavens. Therefore, if he wanted to increase the success rate of his fire and earth spiritual root foundation establishment through the ways of the heavens, he needed to start with luck value. When he thought of the luck value, he could not help but think of the number 2 lucky lady, Su Wanner, who he had just subdued. There was still some time before his divine soul reached the emptiness realm. During this process, he could start the training of the number 2 lucky lady, Su Wanner. As he thought about it, Lu Yuan fell into deep thought. What should I do to make number 2 lucky lady transform into a shape that suits me? Don't misunderstand. I'm just coveting her luck. I don't have any other thoughts. I, Lu Yuan, am a gentleman, beast in a coat. Chapter 66. 66, Training Plan for the Dark Lucky Lady, 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 66. Training Plan for the Dark Lucky Lady, 1, Translator. Nyo iwo Studio Editor. Nyo iwo Studio about training the number 2 lucky lady, Su Wanner. Lu Yuan was temporarily unable to free up his hands to do it. Currently, he needed to spend a certain amount of time to completely absorb the remaining soul power from the soul pill in his body. Even though this soul pill had already been purified, it was not that easy to completely absorb it. After all, it was something that involved the soul. He could not be too careful. After a period of absorption, Lu Yuan estimated that he would need about 5 days to refine this soul pill of a foundation establishment stage cultivator. Furthermore, he would still have to spend a certain amount of time to adapt to his strengthened divine soul. However, as his divine soul became stronger in the future, the speed at which he absorbed soul power would also become faster, and the efficiency would also become higher. The Emptiness Realm Divine Soul was just around the corner. Devil Slayer's Division, Wing Room. The so-called Wing area was the area where the practitioners of the Devil Slayer Division and their families lived. At this moment, Su Wanner was temporarily placed in this area. On Su Wanner's first day here, it even caused a small commotion. It attracted many people's strange gazes and discussions. This was not strange at all. After all, Su Wanner had the exclusive luck talent, the devastatingly beautiful woman. Even though she looked a little haggard because of the sudden change. In addition, she had come to an unfamiliar place like the Devil Slayer's Division, which made her seem very restrained. No matter who she looked at, she would lower her head. However, that outstanding figure and exquisite and charming face. She still amazed the Devil Slayer Division practitioners and the women that met her. They had never seen such a good-looking girl. After hearing that Su Wanner was personally brought back by the new director, the others did not dare to neglect her. After all, a woman with such beauty was definitely not an ordinary person. If they did something irrational because of jealousy or lust, there might be a problem leaving the Devil Slayer's Division alive. What Su Wanner did not know was that she had unknowingly become the exclusive property of the new director in everyone's eyes. It was also for this reason that even though Su Wanner had been here for a few days, not many people dared to talk to her. This also made Su Wanner feel that she seemed to be out of place here. However, she quickly adapted to this situation. After all, she really did not have the intention to talk to anyone right now. This was because her current thoughts had long been messed up by Lu Yuan's words on the first day. For the past few days, she had been thinking about one thing, and that was her father's death. Was it really as Lu Yuan said, there were other motives? Or was it that Lu Yuan had come up with a lie to take her away? Su Wanner was unable to make a judgment. What Su Wanner did not know was that there were indeed other motives. But it was also true that Lu Yuan had lied to her back then. After all, Lu Yuan didn't even know who Su Wanner's father was at that time. Naturally, he could not know the exact cause of her father's death. What he said back then was just to trick her into coming to the Devil Slayer's Division. A man's mouth, full of lies. It was normal for Su Wanner to have such complicated thoughts. After all, in the first 20 years, she was a young lady from a wealthy family who never left her house. She was well protected by Su Jiaping. This also led to her being very shy and innocent. Basically, she believed whatever others said and rarely made her own judgment. This was why she did not think too much about her father's death at first. She only thought that her father had done something to be beheaded and that his death was not worth regretting. However, with the appearance of the sixth prince and Lu Yuan, no matter how innocent Su Wan'er was, she could tell that this matter was not ordinary. Thinking about it carefully, even her father's imprisonment was strange. Ever since her mother passed away due to childbirth, she had never seen her father, Su Jiaping, approach any woman. Su Jiaping had passed many years of abstinence. There was no reason for him to commit crimes at such an important event as the palace banquet. To do something as crazy as molesting a concubine just because he was drunk. Thinking about it, her father was most likely schemed against by someone. As for who plotted against her father, why did they plot against her father, and even whether the demons and evildoers that Lu Yuan mentioned existed, Su Wan'er could not understand. That was all she could think of now. It was because she was thinking about these things that caused Su Wan'er to be very absent-minded during this period of time. She was muddle-headed every day. Late at night, in Su Wan'er's courtyard. Under the moonlight, Su Wan'er sat by the pond in the courtyard in a daze. She leaned her hands on the bluestone beside the pool. Her slender jade-white legs sank into the pool and swayed unconsciously. Perhaps it was because she wanted to play, Su Wan'er stopped kicking the water. She slowly raised her slender jade-white right leg and tapped the water with her sparkling toes. Rip. With just a light tap, the originally calm surface of the pool instantly rippled. Even her reflection in the pool began to blur. Su Wan'er, who was playing with the water with her feet, sighed in her heart in boredom. Sigh, how long am one going to stay here alone? She had thought that the handsome lord would quickly start to investigate her father's matter after bringing her back. But in reality, other than the first day she saw that lord, she had not seen him since. It was as if the other party had completely forgotten about her. This caused Su Wan'er's fear of Lu Yuan to turn into a little resentment. She had many questions she wanted to ask, but she simply couldn't find the right opportunity. You brought me back, but why did you leave me alone here? At the thought of this, Su Wan'er kicked the pool hard as if she was venting her dissatisfaction with Lu Yuan. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from behind her. What are you doing? Su Wan'er turned her head in shock and realized that Lu Yuan had suddenly appeared behind her. All. Startled, Su Wan'er lost her balance and fell headfirst into the pool. However, just as she was about to fall into the water, she realized that her body seemed to be wrapped in something. Su Wan'er lowered her head and realized that the originally calm pool water had actually turned into gentle tentacles. It held her body to prevent her from falling into the pool. While Lu Yuan controlled the water flow to send Su Wan'er ashore, he laughed and said, "Be careful. If an ordinary person without cultivation like you falls into the water at night, it's very easy for you to fall sick." Facing Lu Yuan's gentle tone, Su Wan'er did not say a word. She kept her head even lower and did not dare to look Lu Yuan in the eye. Because she felt that her situation just now was really too embarrassing. He did not appear earlier or late, but suddenly appeared when she was thinking about Lu Yuan. After that, such a miserable thing happened. For some reason, she felt that Lu Yuan was doing this on purpose. He was just trying to scare her so that he could see her in a sorry state. Bad, really bad. However, she was stupid and easily fell for it. Sob, sob, sob. At the thought of this, Su Wan'er, who was already thin-skinned, suddenly blushed so red that it was as if water could drip out. There was even an instant. She felt that there was nothing in this world that was worth her staying, the human world was not worth it. Looking at Su Wan'er's constantly lowered head, Lu Yuan, who had received professional training, tried his best not to laugh. To be honest, Lu Yuan had done it on purpose just now. It was like seeing someone sitting by the pool. Anyone could not help but want to go up and kick him. There was no other reason. It was just that he was a little playful. However, Lu Yuan still had a little conscience. Therefore, he did not continue to tease Su Wan'er. He tried hard to hold back his laughter and said calmly, "All right, I came to find you because I have something to tell you. Come in with me." However, after Lu Yuan took a few steps, he was surprised to find that Su Wanner had stood in the same place, not moving an inch. Su Wanner bit her lower lip and grabbed the hem of her clothes nervously. She seemed to be having some intense internal struggle. Late in the night, a man and a woman alone entered the room. Lu Yuan instantly understood that Su Wanner must have misunderstood something. "No, you're number 2 lucky lady, why is your mind filled with obscure thoughts? Can't one just call you over to do something serious?" Lu Yuan looked at Su Wanner and said unhappily, "One indeed have something important to tell you. You'd better come in now. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." After saying that, Lu Yuan walked into the room without looking back. He had thought that Su Wanner would immediately follow him after he said those words. However, who knew that she still stood there without moving as if she were under a freezing spell. Her expression looked like a little servant girl who was forced into prostitution like in the movies. She was extremely aggrieved. This made Lu Yuan instantly speechless. "What did you mean by not moving? Are you doubting my character?" "You are doubting my character. I'm a gentleman. If one say one want to talk about something, then I'm talking about something. Can you not judge me based on your own mean measure?" Chapter 67. 67, Training Plan for the Dark Lucky Lady, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 67. Training Plan for the Dark Lucky Lady, 2, Translator. Nyo iwo Studio Editor. Nyo iwo Studio. To Lu Yuan, there were two things in this world that he found the most difficult to accept. One was that when he spoke the truth, others thought that he was lying. The other one was that when he lied, others knew that he was lying. Lu Yuan felt like that at the moment. He was obviously saying something that was half truth and half lie, but he was arrested by Su Wanner. Was there a problem with Su Wanner worried that he was up to no good? Of course, there was no problem. Because Lu Yuan, he indeed had wanted to use their talk as an excuse and thought of doing something bad to Su Wanner. Otherwise, which decent person would call a girl into their room in the middle of the night for serious discussions? What is so important that could not be during the day? However, even in such an awkward situation, Lu Yuan was still very calm. A beast in human clothing. He deliberately ignored Su Wanner, who was standing in the courtyard, and sat down on a chair in the room. He put on a look that said that he was very decent and that it was all her imagination. After an internal struggle, Su Wanner seemed to have figured it out. She felt that she was already in the Devil Slayers division. If Lu Yuan really wanted to do something to her, did she have a solution? Sorry, no. Since she couldn't resist, it was better to just give in. Hence, under Lu Yuan's calm gaze, Su Wanner finally walked in. "Have a seat. I have something to tell you." Su Wanner nodded. Then, she sat down in front of Lu Yuan in her thin chiffon dress. After sitting down, she still did not dare to look Lu Yuan in the eye. She grabbed the clothes on her thighs with one hand and fiddled with her long hair that fell from her ears with the other. The more restrained Su Wanner was, the more Lu Yuan wanted to tease her. After all, Lu Yuan had met two women after time traveling. One was the demoness Meng Ruyan, whose personality was ever changing, and the other was the domineering Miss Mu. No matter which of these two people was, they did not have much to do with the pretty daughter of a humble family. They both belonged to the strong personality type. Therefore, the seemingly gentle and weak Su Wanner in front of him lit Lu Yuan's eyes up. However, Lu Yuan did not forget the purpose of his visit. Thus, after a moment of silence, Lu Yuan said indifferently, "Regarding your father, Su Jiaping, I'm almost done with the investigation." Hearing this, Su Wanner, who had her head lowered, finally raised her head. She looked at Lu Yuan. The shyness of the past had disappeared and was replaced by a strong desire for knowledge. Obviously, she also wanted to know the real cause of her father's death. Just as Su Wan'er gathered her courage and was about to say something, Lu Yuan stretched out his hand and interrupted her. "Don't worry, listen to me." Yes, Su Wan'er was like an obedient kitten. She nodded her head vigorously and sat down obediently. After seeing this, Lu Yuan said seriously, "The matter regarding your father is actually far more complicated than you think. First of all, we found out that the reason why your father was able to enter the court as an official seemed to be related to a certain devil sect in the Great Xia Kingdom in the early years. And this sect is the devil sect that has been uprooted by my sect, the Giles sect. The so-called Giles sect was actually a special organization lurking in the streets of the Great Xia Kingdom. The origin of the Giles sect was the devilish sect, the Huanqi sect. The reason why I was able to discover this was mainly because I used the Buddha statue in your father's book as a clue. Later, one asked people to follow the clues and found it out. Because this Buddha statue is the Huanqi Giles Buddha that the Giles sect believes in. And this Huanqi Giles Buddha is an evil existence, be it in the Great Xia Kingdom or in our sect. According to this clue, we found that the year your father decided to enter the court as an official was the year he left the Giles sect. After that, your father only used a few years to become a second-grade official. I don't think this is your father's ability. As for what exactly happened in between, due to the long interval of time and the fact that someone deliberately concealed the clues, my subordinates were unable to investigate everything. However, it is also because of this that I am even more certain that your father's death is not simple. There aren't many people or forces in the Great Xia Kingdom who can deceive the Devil Slayers division. Only a few people can do it. At this point, Lu Yuan paused. What I am about to say next may have a huge impact on your future life. Are you sure you still want to listen? At this point, Su Wan'er naturally would not back down. "Sir, please speak," although Su Wan'er's voice was still as soft as ever, like the breeze of spring. Lu Yuan could still hear the determination in her tone. "All right," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Since you want to hear it, then I'll tell you about the key figures that I've speculated to be the ones who killed your father. First of all, the person who killed your father, I am sure it was Empress Xiao from the palace. After all, almost everyone knows that your father wants you to enter the palace as a concubine. And with the emperor's attitude towards you, once you officially enter the palace, Empress Xiao's position will undoubtedly be greatly challenged. There is no need to doubt that you do have such beauty." Hearing Lu Yuan indirectly praise her, Su Wan'er suddenly felt a little happy. In her opinion, being praised by such an immortal was undoubtedly something to be proud of. "After speaking of Empress Xiao, I will tell you about those people who indirectly killed your father. And the current emperor. For the people who indirectly killed your father, I suspect the remaining members of the Giles sect." "Emperor. What does this have to do with the emperor?" Although the person who ordered the arrest of Su Jeping was Emperor Qinda. However, Su Wan'er did not hate him too much. After all, Su Jeping molested his concubines and even forced them to commit suicide. In such a situation, no matter who it was, they would be sentenced to death. Perhaps he saw through Su Wan'er's doubts. Lu Yuan said indifferently, "I naturally have my reasons for saying so." "Do you know who gave your father the Giles Buddha statue back then?" Su Wan'er frowned and thought for a moment before shaking her head. In the dim candlelight, Lu Yuan said calmly, "The person who gave your father the Buddha statue is Eunuch Li, who offended me 10 days ago." "Li Tianlu." "Li, Eunuch Li." Hearing this, Su Wan'er immediately revealed a shocked expression. His father had met Eunuch Li 10 years ago. But why did she not see any signs of them knowing each other before? The more she thought about it, the more Su Wan'er felt as if a huge net had enveloped her body. The first 20 years of her life seemed to be entangled in a spider web. It seemed to be free, but it was annoying that everything was arranged. Perhaps he felt that the opportunity was almost there. Lu Yuan said indifferently, the Empress, the Emperor, and the Giles sect. In my opinion, all three of them are related to your father's death. Empress Xiao should be the one who set your father up, and the Emperor and the Giles sect should have other intentions. If I'm not wrong, their goal should be you. Me. Su Wanner's face turned pale when she heard that she was the target of the Emperor and the Giles sect. She thought that she was just an ordinary weak woman. How could she deal with the two behemoths, the Emperor and the Giles sect? She was still in the Devil Slayers division. If she left here, wouldn't she be captured by the Emperor or the people of the Giles sect soon? Su Wanner could not imagine what would happen then. Lu Yuan looked at the nervous Su Wanner and knew that it was time for him to make a move. Su Wanner, one came to find you today mainly to give you two choices. The first choice, I can let you stay in the Devil Slayers division for the rest of your life. As long as you don't go out, no one can hurt you. You can live the rest of your life here, and the second choice is, I can teach you how to cultivate and let you think of a way to take revenge. After all, my status is special. There are some things that neither I nor the Devil Slayers division can directly interfere in. But if it were you, things would be different. So, what is your choice? Su Wanner looked at Lu Yuan. She also understood that today's decision would affect her entire life. In the end, after weighing the pros and cons, Su Wanner made a decision. Sir, please teach me how to cultivate. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled. He smiled very happily. All right, I promise you. From tomorrow onwards, you will move into my mansion. I will give you enough power to take revenge within a period of time. However, one will not admit that I am your master. If others ask, I will only say that you are my servant. Are you willing to do that? Yes sir, I am willing, Su Wanner nodded firmly. You still calling me sir? Lu Yuan said with a smile while drinking tea. Su Wanner blushed. After hesitating for a moment, she said in a soft voice, Master. Pfft. Lu Yuan spat out a mouthful of hot tea on the spot. Cough cough cough, after coughing a few times, he said with a drifting gaze, forget master. You can just call me young master in the future. Alright, why young master? He looked at the beautiful and shy Su Wanner under the candlelight. Lu Yuan was secretly happy. Number 2 Lucky Lady transformation completed, the Dark Lucky Lady. Once number 2 Lucky Lady embarked on the path of revenge, she would definitely encounter all kinds of dangers. As long as he made a move at this time, he would undoubtedly be able to harvest the luck of number 2 Lucky Lady. Although the process was a little troublesome, considering that Su Wanner had to deal with characters like the Emperor Chinda and Empress Xiao, she had to be careful. Presumably, it would also affect the national luck of the Great Xia Kingdom. At that time, not only would he be able to harvest the luck of number 2 Lucky Lady, he could even reap the national luck of the Great Xia Kingdom, a double harvest. Lu Yuan only had one sentence for the situation. That was double the enjoyment, double the joy. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan almost could not help but laugh out loud. Kakik. Chapter 68. 68, It hurts a little, bear with it. 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 68. It hurts a little, bear with it. 1, translator. Nyo I.bo studio editor. Nyo I.bo studio Lu Yuan did not decide to teach Su Wanner cultivation on a whim. It was a decision he made after careful consideration. In fact, ever since he obtained the luck talent, destined lucky star, Lu Yuan more or less understood what he had to do to obtain the luck of others. Helping others change their fate was the simplest and most effective way to obtain luck. Actually, this was very understandable. Lu Yuan helping the other party change bad luck or obtain fortuitous chance was equivalent to using money to help others avoid disaster. However, the reward was the other party's luck value. Being recharged by the demoness Meng Rian was to help her cultivate faster, which indirectly changed her fate. By helping Bai Dafei get off the mortal rank earlier, he could avoid future dangers in advance and change a part of his fate. As for the matter of Lu Yuan snatching Su Wan'er from the hands of the head eunuch Li. Not only did this change Su Wan'er's fate, but it also changed the luck of the great Xia kingdom. Thus, he obtained double luck. It wasn't hard to understand why taking Su Wan'er away would indirectly change the fate of the great Xia kingdom. Lu Yuan felt that had Su Wan'er really been taken away by eunuch Li at that time. With her luck value, the possibility of her entering the palace was very high. Coupled with Su Wan'er's beauty and own luck, there was a high chance that she would become the empress of the great Xia kingdom in the end. However, considering Empress Zhao's ruthless methods and Emperor Qin De's strange actions, it was highly possible that Su Wan'er would demonize after entering the palace. And if someone like Su Wan'er, who had the luck talent, devastatingly beautiful, was demonized, that was definitely not a good thing for the entire Great Xia kingdom. Lu Yuan taking away Su Wan'er naturally equates to saving the Great Xia kingdom once. It prevented the chaos in the chambers of the imperial concubine. It was precisely because there were so many similar cases in front of him. Lu Yuan finally understood the triggering conditions of the luck talent, lucky star. If he came into contact with those with great luck and changed their fate, he would be able to obtain luck value. However, other than this method, Lu Yuan felt that he might have another way to obtain luck value. That was, if he directly killed a person with luck, he might be able to directly absorb all of the other party's luck. As he had never done this before, Lu Yuan could not guarantee that this method would work. However, even if it was possible, Lu Yuan would not do it for the time being. After all, leeks, like this needed to be raised and harvested many times. It was undoubtedly a very stupid thing to uproot the leeks in one go. He had decided to teach Su Wan'er. However, before that, he needed to test Su Wan'er's spiritual root aptitude. Give me your hand. All right, young master. Su Wan'er walked in front of Lu Yuan and extended her hand somewhat cautiously. She did not even dare to look at Lu Yuan. In response, Lu Yuan held her soft and seemingly boneless hand as if nothing had happened. He began to inject his spiritual energy into Su Wan'er's body. When the spiritual energy entered her body, Su Wan'er could not help but shout out. It was this warm feeling that made her unable to control herself. However, after shouting, Su Wan'er's face turned red again. It seemed a little embarrassing for her to suddenly speak up. She secretly glanced at Lu Yuan from the corner of her eye. After realizing that there were no changes to Lu Yuan's expression, Su Wan'er immediately heaved a sigh of relief. If Lu Yuan were to say something at this moment, she really did not know how she would answer. In fact, Lu Yuan's mood was not as calm as she had imagined. Late at night, beautiful women, touching hands. Any normal man would not have been able to control himself. Thus, Lu Yuan's closed eyes were actually a tactical move. He was afraid that if he opened his eyes and saw Su Wan'er's devastatingly beautiful face, he would easily make some mistakes and solidify his image as a beast in human clothing. Lu Yuan, who thought of himself as a gentleman, did not want to carry such a bad reputation. After calming himself down, Lu Yuan began to seriously test Su Wan'er's spiritual root. When he sensed the condition of Su Wan'er's spirit root, his heart was instantly in turmoil. Su Wan'er's spiritual root was a rare ultimate spiritual root. The so-called ultimate spiritual root was an extreme situation where one was born with only one spiritual root attribute. As for Su Wan'er, her ultimate spiritual root was the water spiritual root. Moreover, her water spirit root aptitude had reached an astonishing 300 points. Su Wan'er, cultivation. None, spiritual root aptitude. 300 water spiritual root, luck talent. Devastatingly beautiful, luck value. 800/1500, devastatingly beautiful. Charm points plus 100, comes with a certain charm effect, an ultimate water spiritual root. I've picked up a treasure. Generally speaking, a cultivator's spiritual root had all 5 elements, but there would be a few spiritual roots with more outstanding attributes. However, Sue Warner was different. Her spiritual root was the ultimate single spiritual root. No matter which sect she was in, such spiritual root aptitude. They were entirely worthy of being exceptionally gifted. Their cultivation speed was more than 10 times faster than others. On the other hand, the ultimate spiritual root was not all good. Because she only had a single spiritual root, Sue Warner would be unable to cultivate other cultivation technique divine ability in the future. Unless she was willing to condense a heaven spiritual root. However, almost all cultivators with ultimate spiritual root would not choose to cultivate the heaven spiritual roots. This was because it was not beneficial to them, and it was a thankless task. In short, the advantages of an ultimate spiritual root outweighed the disadvantages. However, Lu Yuan also discovered that there seemed to be a problem with Sue Warner's ultimate spiritual root. Logically speaking, even if those with the ultimate spiritual roots had never cultivated just the spiritual energy that the spiritual root unconsciously absorbed, should be able to allow the person with the ultimate spiritual root to have a certain level of cultivation. However, there was no spiritual energy in Sue Warner's body at all. This was obviously very abnormal. It was as if a force had locked Sue Warner's spiritual energy. Soon, Lu Yuan found the reason why Sue Warner had no cultivation level at all. Deep inside Sue Warner's spiritual root, there was a special Kobe. As for the appearance of the divine soul, was a bald golden fetus. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Lu Yuan looked at the strange fetus that was parasitizing Sue Warner's water spirit root and keenly sensed something strange. A moment later, Lu Yuan finally realized why Sue Warner had not been discovered by others despite having an ultimate spiritual root. This was because the spiritual energy absorbed by her ultimate spiritual root had all been snatched away by the fetus. As a result, she did not have any spiritual energy at all. Ordinary people without any spiritual energy would naturally not be noticed by other cultivators. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan felt that he might have to deal with this strange fetus first before he could guide Sue Warner in her cultivation. There's something wrong with your body. I'll need to do something about it later, Lu Yuan said indifferently. This process might be a little painful. Bear with it for a while. Oh. All right. Lu Yuan held Sue Warner's hand and began to put his divine soul pill refinement technique to use. The spiritual energy that had fused with a portion of Lu Yuan's divine soul instantly reached Sue Warner's spiritual root. The fetus that had been quietly staying within the water spiritual root seemed to have sensed danger at the moment. It looked at Lu Yuan's spiritual energy that contained his divine soul and suddenly opened its eyes. Then, it began to resist fiercely. As it resisted, Sue Warner's internal body immediately turned into an intense battlefield. The pain caused by the battle immediately made Sue Warner scream. However, Lu Yuan could not care less at the moment. This fellow that was parasitic within Sue Warner's body was far more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. For some reason, this fellow had actually completely fused with Sue Warner's spiritual root, and they were no longer separated entities. If he were to separate them rashly, it would be equivalent to completely destroying Sue Warner's spiritual root. Using the system, Lu Yuan also discovered the nature of this thing. Jile Buddha child, embryonic form, description. The Buddha child of the Huanchi Jile Buddha. He can live in the spiritual root of a specific group of people. He needs a lot of luck to grow. So it was the Huanchi sect's doing again. After seeing the name of this thing, Lu Yuan instantly understood many things. Could it be that Sue Warner had been targeted by the demon monks of the Huanchi clan since she was born? Generally speaking, even if a nascent soul stage cultivator wanted to deal with this Jile Buddha child, it would not be an easy task. This was not because nascent soul stage cultivators were not strong enough. On the contrary, it was precisely because the divine soul of a nascent soul stage cultivator was too powerful that they were unable to perform such detailed operations. After all, this fellow had already become a part of Su Wanner's spiritual root. If he wanted to deal with it, he needed to use a very meticulous technique. Unfortunately, this guy just had to meet Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan was one of the very few people who had a way to resolve this situation. You like parasitism, right? Then, one will let you see who will be the parasite in the end. Chapter 69. 69, Director, please be careful of the impact. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 69. Director, please be careful of the impact. Translator. Nyo-i.bo Studio Editor. Nyo-i.bo Studio. If it was an ordinary cultivator, they really wouldn't be able to do anything to this strange Jile Buddha child. However, Lu Yuan was no ordinary cultivator. There was a cheat code. Lu Yuan had thought of a perfect countermeasure the moment he saw the Buddha child. In a sense, the relationship between the Jile Buddha child and Su Wanner was a special kind of companion relationship. At this moment, the two of them were inseparable. It was undoubtedly very difficult to completely separate the Jile Buddha child from Su Wanner's spiritual root. Even if a nascent soul stage cultivator came, he might not be able to do it. After all, although nascent soul stage cultivators had powerful divine souls, it did not mean that they could control their divine soul as precisely as a surgeon's scalpel. Using a large knife to perform surgery was undoubtedly very difficult. But Lu Yuan was different. He did not have a divine soul as strong as a nascent soul stage cultivator. However, he had a delicate technique that ordinary nascent soul stage cultivators did not have. This technique was the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. The nature of the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique was to allow him, Lu Yuan, to have the means to touch and control the Divine Soul. Lu Yuan felt that he could completely treat the Jile Buddha child as a pill refinement solution. As long as he used the method of pill refinement to completely fuse the spiritual root of the Jile Buddha child and Su Wanner together. In the process, he would destroy the self-consciousness of the Jile Buddha child. After that, Su Wanner not be hurt. On the contrary, she could obtain quite a bit of benefit from it. Lu Yuan was prepared to use pill refinement as a solution this time. A success rate interface that only appeared when refining pills appeared in his eyes. Jile Wisdom Root, refining success rate. 96%, good heavens, seems like everything could be refined, right? However, Lu Yuan no longer hesitated when he saw that his current success rate was a full 96%. Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. Activate. The spiritual energy that Lu Yuan instilled into Su Wanner's body transformed into a terrifying green flame divine ability and quickly wrapped around Su Wanner's spiritual root. Sensing the danger, Jile Buddha child also began to resist. As the Jile Buddha child began to resist, Su Wanner felt as if countless steel needles were stabbing her body. It was extremely painful. How could an ordinary young lady like her endure such intense pain? Under the intense pain, not only did Su Wanner's expression become painful, but she also continuously let out miserable cries. At this moment, Lu Yuan was no longer in the mood to pay attention to such things. Because he wanted to put all his attention on the Jile Buddha child. The Jile Buddha child had stolen a lot of Su Wanner's spiritual energy over the years, and its cultivation level had reached a level equivalent to a Qi cultivation stage level 7 cultivator. However, he was facing Lu Yuan, who was at level 4 of the foundation establishment stage as well as 3 foundation establishment through the way of the heaven's spiritual root. It had no chance of winning at all. After 6 hours of battle to and fro, it finally came to an end. Under the horrified and desperate eyes of the Jile Buddha child, Lu Yuan gradually melted its body. Its concept of self began to disappear. During this process, Lu Yuan was also continuously adjusting Su Wanner's spiritual root to absorb this power. Every time he refined a portion of the divine soul of the Jile Buddha child. Su Wanner's water spiritual root was a little stronger. Under such circumstances, the Jile Buddha child did not even have the chance to fight back. This was because Lu Yuan's refinement of it was actually speeding up its fusion with Su Wanner's spiritual root. Originally, without Lu Yuan's appearance, the Jile Buddha child would have been able to perfectly occupy the magpie's nest. However, after Lu Yuan appeared, the situation was completely reversed. The nest had become the Jile Buddha child. If the Jile Buddha child wanted to solve this predicament, then it would need to cut off Su Wanner's spiritual root. But even if it really cut it, where could it go after that? There was nowhere to run. Therefore, from the moment Lu Yuan discovered it, its fate was almost destined. Slowly, the Jile Buddha child that was parasitizing Su Wanner's spiritual root disappeared completely. After Su Wanner's spiritual root absorbed the power of the Jile Buddha child, it also underwent a shocking change. A special blue-gold spiritual root appeared in Su Wanner's body. Apart from possessing the ultimate water attribute, this spiritual root also possessed a pure Buddha nature. Su Wanner's original ultimate water spiritual root had become a rare water and Buddha spiritual root. However, these two attributes appeared on the same spiritual root. This made Lu Yuan a little confused. One had to know that for the spiritual energy of different attributes to appear on the same spiritual root, this was something that would only happen in the late stage of the foundation establishment stage. This process was known as spiritual roots fusion. It was a necessary step to transform one's spiritual root into a golden core. However, Su Wanner reached this stage when she was only at the Qi cultivation stage. If it was really spiritual root fusion, Su Wanner's future was limitless. As long as she continued to cultivate diligently, she would first complete the spiritual root foundation establishment stage to stabilize her spiritual root, and then complete the spiritual root fusion to form the golden core. Then, she would be able to advance to the core formation stage cultivator without any obstacles. Was this the luck of a person with great luck? It was a little terrifying. Ding! Due to your serious soul refinement, Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique Proficiency plus 1000, ding. As the host has greatly changed the fate of the character, Su Wanner's luck value plus 1500, ding. Luck talent, Destined Lucky Star, activated. The host has received 1000 points of luck from the character, Su Wanner. Ding. As the host has eliminated the Jile Buddha child, the fate of the Great Xia Kingdom's Emperor, Chinda, has changed. The host received 500 luck value. Ding. As the host eliminated the Jile Buddha child, the Great Xia Kingdom's national luck changed. The host received 1000 luck value. Ding. As the host eliminated the Jile Buddha child, the fate of the Qingyun sect changed. The host received 5000 luck value. Current luck value 10052, wow, wow, wow. After Lu Yuan completely refined the Jile Buddha child, he found that his system interface had been flooded with a large number of notifications. Luck, so much luck. He looked at his 10,000 plus luck. Lu Yuan was so pleasantly surprised that he did not know what to say. To describe it in one sentence, he had never fought such a rich battle since he time-traveled to the celestial cultivation world. After his excitement, Lu Yuan withdrew his spiritual energy and divine soul from Su Wanner's body. At this moment, Su Wanner had already fainted. Lu Yuan looked at her pale face and sweaty body. All of this showed that she had gone through an intense battle last night. Thinking about it carefully, it was actually true. Lu Yuan had fought fiercely with the Jile Buddha child for 800 rounds in her body last night. During this process, Su Wanner's body, which was the battlefield, was just an ordinary person without any cultivation. She was already very lucky that she only fainted. If this dragged on any longer, Su Wanner's body might collapse even if the problem with the Jile Buddha child was resolved. But no matter what, the most dangerous time had passed. After surviving this calamity, Su Wanner's fate had also undergone an earth-shattering change. The Jile Buddha child who had been living in her body for more than 10 years. Now, had all become her nourishment. After Su Wanner's body had adapted to the new environment, she would immediately turn from a person with no cultivation to a Qi cultivation stage level 7 cultivator. It was not an exaggeration to say that he had undergone a complete transformation. As for now, she just needed to rest and recuperate. After confirming that Su Wanner was not in danger, Lu Yuan personally cleaned her body with the water-wielding technique. After placing her on the bed, he decisively left. After all, he was prepared to go back and organize his gains from tonight. He had to think carefully about why he was clearly only helping Su Wanner. But he could change the fate of so many people. Especially since it was related to the fate of the Qingyun sect. Just how many people and forces were involved behind Su Wanner? He had to think about how he would deal with these people in the future and make some preparations in advance. Just as Lu Yuan walked out of Su Wanner's courtyard, he unexpectedly met someone. "Practitioner Shang, why are you here?" Practitioner Shang seemed to have been waiting here. After seeing Lu Yuan come out, he hesitated for a moment and said softly, "Director, the reason why I'm here is because my family lives next door." What? What a coincidence. Shang Yun's family lived next door. Lu Yuan really did not expect this. Shang Yun looked around to make sure that there was no one around. He lowered his voice and said, "Director, I know that you have a free and easy personality and don't care about trifles, however, one would like to request a favor from you, Director." "What is it? Tell me." "Sir, when you do such things in the future, can you set up a soundproofing spell?" "I definitely don't mean to blame you, sir. It's mainly because my children live next door. They're still young. It's not a good influence on them. Why don't you bring Miss Su to your residence in the future?" Lu Yuan was speechless. Looking at the cautious Shang Yun, Lu Yuan did not know what to say. "No, Practitioner Shang, did you misunderstand something? But there seems to be no way I could explain it either." Chapter 70. 70. Taking the blame. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. Taking the blame. Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio Name. Lu Yuan, Cultivation. Foundation Establishment Stage Level 4, Luck Talent. Destined Lucky Star, Luck Points. 10052. Lu Yuan looked at his current luck value. He was so happy that he did not know what to say. He had thought that he had changed Su Wanner's fate. At most, he could obtain about 2000 luck value. However, he never expected that. Changing Su Wanner's fate alone could actually involve so many things. Through the changes in luck in the system, Lu Yuan had roughly figured out what was hidden behind Su Wanner. And how deep the waters of the Great Xia Kingdom were. The first was the matter of the Jile Buddha child. According to Black Mountain practitioners' memories, Lu Yuan knew how important that Jile Buddha child was in the Huanxi sect. The so-called Jile Buddha child was a special reincarnation technique. It was to use a special technique like reincarnation to let a Jile senior monk in a sect to reincarnate and cultivate again. As the Jile Buddha child parasites on people with great luck, together with the senior monk's own cultivation experience. Once the memories of his previous life were awakened, such a Buddha chid would often cultivate at an astonishing speed. However, the conditions for reincarnating and cultivating were extremely harsh. Not only was it difficult to find a goddess at the early stage of reincarnation. Even before and after the process of parasitism, the Buddha child had to go through 3 calamities. Hence, those who did not have great luck could not be born safely. As for the Buddha child that was living in Su Wanner's body, it had undoubtedly not passed his reincarnation tribulation. Lu Yuan was its tribulation. Lu Yuan's action of refining the Gyal Buddha child in advance not only to save Su Wanner's life. At the same time, he saved Chinda's life. The devil monk from the Huanchi sect who handed the Gyal Buddha child to Chinda. In fact, he did not tell him the entire content of the reincarnation technique. Chinda thought that the Gyal Buddha child's son he was going to reincarnate into was a shell without any self-concept. But in reality, it was the opposite. This Gyal Buddha child was the reincarnation of a senior monk from the Huanchi sect. Once Chinda really transferred his divine soul to the Gyal Buddha child, there was only one outcome waiting for him, and that was to be easily devoured by the other party. When the time came, the successfully reincarnated son of Buddha child would not only absorb the divine soul of the mortal world emperor, but he would also be able to steal the luck of this kingdom. He could even easily enter the Qinyan sect with his identity as the Great Xia's imperial family. With the talent he displayed later, he might even become a high-level member of the Qinyan sect. At that time, the Qinyan sect, which had been infiltrated by the Huanchi sect to this extent, would undoubtedly be in great danger. Lu Yuan based on the reincarnation method of the Gyal Buddha child and the fact that Li Tianlu had handed the Buddha child to Su Wanner's father. He guessed that Chinda had most likely established contact with the people of the Gyal sect in his early years. According to Lu Yuan's analysis, the emperor of the Great Xia Kingdom, Chinda, met the devil monk of the Huanchi sect by chance, or rather, by the special arrangement of the Huanchi sect. The other party used the longevity technique as bait to make Chinda accept their deal. After that, Chinda arranged for someone to hand over the Gyal Buddha child to Su Jiaping and secretly pushed Su Jiaping to enter the imperial capital. If everything went well, this Buddha child might really succeed in his reincarnation. However, in the end, something unexpected happened. One was the Empress's strong sense of crisis and ruthless methods, which caused Su Wanner's entry into the palace to not go smoothly. One was Lu Yuan's powerful attack, causing Su Wanner to be unable to be easily taken away. The most important thing was Lu Yuan's powerful attack. This caused Chinda to be unable to speak his mind, and he could not think of any other way. After all, the position of the director of the Devil Slayers division was even higher than that of the emperor. He could not do anything to Lu Yuan at all. Thinking about it carefully, these two things might not be coincidences. It was a calamity that prevented the reincarnation of the Buddha child. One had to know that in the world of celestial cultivation, luck was not something illusory. It was a real existence. People with luck were more likely to become immortals than people without luck. After thinking through this, Lu Yuan began to think about how he should deal with Chinda. The simplest way was naturally to tell the Qinyan sect his guess. However, in this way, he would have to explain a lot of things. After all, Lu Yuan could not just talk. He definitely had to produce some evidence. During the process of handing over the evidence, Lu Yuan was bound to confess about his divine soul pill refinement technique. And as time passed, Lu Yuan already felt the overbearing power of the divine soul pill refinement technique more and more. This was a skill that was more terrifying than the foundation establishment through the way of the heavens. As long as he used it well, he could easily obtain a lot of opportunities. Moreover, if his divine soul pill refinement technique was exposed, would the matter of his three foundation establishment through the way of the heavens spiritual route be exposed as well? Once these were exposed, Lu Yuan would not be able to develop in a novice village like the Great Xia Kingdom in peace like he was now. He would most likely be arranged to the place where the big shots gathered on the battlefield of good and evil. One had to know that the battles there were completely different from those in the Great Xia Kingdom. In a novice village like the Great Xia Kingdom, even foundation establishment stage could be considered high-end players. Lu Yuan was a foundation establishment through the way of the heavens cultivator, and he was the higher-end player among high-end players. But in the battlefield of good and evil, Lu Yuan could at most be considered to have some strength. After all, there were no core formation stage cultivators on the battlefield of good and evil. However, there were also quite several foundation establishment stage monsters. The top 50 people on the mortal ranking were basically all gathered there. If nothing unexpected happened, these monsters must have a foundation establishment through the ways of the heavens as the base of their powers. Not to mention others, the current generation of Huanshi sect's Buddha child was on the battlefield. The opposite side was a matured Jile Buddha child. It was not the unborn Buddha child Lu Yuan dealt with last night. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, Lu Yuan decided to keep secret on anything about Qin De colluding with the Huanshi sect. This was because concealing this matter would not actually cause any harm to the Qinyan sect. In the end, Qin was just an emperor in the mortal world. The only thing he could threaten the Qinyan sect before was the hidden reincarnated Buddha child. However, Qin lost his last threat after losing the reincarnated Buddha child. As for the power of the mortal world in his hands, let's put it this way. The Great Xia Kingdom could have no Emperor Qin, but it could not do without the Devil Slayers division or the Qinyan sect. It didn't matter who the emperor was. The Qinyan sect only needed someone to hold the position of emperor. Therefore, the power of the Great Xia Kingdom's emperor was actually very limited. Once the emperor did something out of line, he would be replaced by the Qinyan sect at any time. Therefore, it was a good thing for Lu Yuan to let Qin continue to sit on the throne. This was because he had suddenly thought of a way to obtain the Great Xia Kingdom's national luck. Previously, Lu Yuan had been coveting on the Great Xia Kingdom's national luck. However, because he was worried that he would be arrested by the Qinyan sect, he did not dare take action for a long time. The national luck of a kingdom could be seen as the collective luck of everyone in the kingdom. Although most people's luck was only in the single digits. However, collectively, the luck was still very shocking. Thus, if Lu Yuan only took a little bit of this national luck, it would be a huge luck value for him. And he had been conflicted about who should be the scapegoat for the Great Xia Kingdom's declined national fate. This opportunity. Didn't it come? Qin, oh Qin, why are you so nice? Not only did you give me a big gift like Lucky Lady Su Waner on my first day here. You even initiated to be the scapegoat for the kingdom's declined national luck. A good person, Qin, you are really a good person. You really. I am so touched.